Well, it was fun while it lasted, but the Philadelphia Phillies dropped the second game of this three-game series against the Chicago Cubs on Tuesday night. They won a huge walk-off game to kick off that series Monday night, thanks to a great 11th inning with some key bunts, and then obviously the Brandon Marsh walk-off single. Phillies just couldn't get it done in game two to build off that momentum against the Cubs. They lost 8-4 Tuesday night. The series is now tied 1-1 heading into the day game Wednesday here. They are back in the loss column after just one game back in the win column. Still a lot of losing going on for the Philadelphia Phillies. Still a lot of things not to like with this team right now. Hopefully they can get this win to close out this three-game series, get a series win for the first time in a little bit, and then get back on track as they make their way through a pretty tough schedule up until the All-Star break in mid-July. So they really have to get back to their winning ways and playing good baseball before things get really out of hand, and who knows how this season could end up. But anyway, the Phillies also did get some unfortunate news on Tuesday. Starting pitcher Aaron Nola, who's been on the injured list with an ankle injury, he received an MRI because he was dealing with a setback caused by right side stiffness. That MRI showed that he has a stress reaction in his ribs, which, like I said, was an initial setback that he had while he was recovering from that ankle sprain to his right ankle. Rob Thompson says Aaron Nola will not throw, not pitch for the next 2 weeks. And then after those 2 weeks, he's going to need time to ramp things up, such as pitching live batting practice possibly, obviously throwing a bullpen, possibly doing a rehab start down in AAA or in the minor leagues. So Aaron Nola is likely to miss another month of action. He likely won't be back until after the All-Star break, which is from July 12th to July 15th, so over a month from now. Just unfortunate news, a big blow to the Phillies starting rotation that has been struggling a bit as of late here and there. Obviously, it's a strength of this team, but recently hasn't been as dominant as the season started with them and what they're capable of. Aaron Nola wasn't having his best season in 2025 before he landed on the injured list. Honestly, his worst start to his career with the Phillies. He was 1-7 with a 6.16 ERA through his first 9 starts of the 2025 season this year, including 11 home runs allowed, and opponents were hitting .295 against Aaron Nola before he hit the injured list. So hopefully he gets back on track while he recovers from these injuries. Hopefully he gets healthy and get back to the Aaron Nola that we've all seen out of him before. Because like I said, the Phillies starting rotation is obviously a strength of the team, but has been struggling as of late. We'll see if this time off helps Aaron Nola and he can get back on track, because the Phillies need it and Aaron Nola surely needs it. Now, in his absence, the Phillies have been using one of their top pitching prospects, Mick Abel. Now, Mick Abel had an incredible 2 starts to begin his major league career. Obviously, he threw 6 scoreless innings against Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates in his MLB debut, May 18th. He recorded 9 strikeouts in that appearance. He picked up the win. Then he got sent back to AAA for 2 starts, got called back up with Aaron Nola, suffering a setback. Zach Wheeler going to the paternity list at the time to have a new baby with his wife, Dominique. But Mick Abel will be up with the Phillies for the time being as Aaron Nola continues to get back healthy and return to the Phillies starting rotation. Mick Abel has a lot more chances to prove himself. He pitched Tuesday night against the Cubs in this second game. Wasn't his best stuff. His worst start of his young major league career. Just his 3rd start of his major league career. But he definitely had his welcome to the show, his welcome to the MLB moment against one of the best offenses, one of the hottest offenses in all of Major League Baseball in the Chicago Cubs. First, he allowed, which is pretty impressive to think, but he allowed his first career walk in that first inning Tuesday night against the Cubs. He didn't allow a single walk through his first 2 starts. He threw 11 and a third innings combined in those 2 starts. No walks. Just great command out of Mick Abel for a young kid coming up to make his first major league appearances. But he did allow that walk in the first inning against the Cubs. He also allowed 3 solo home runs in that ball game. He first allowed a home run to Dansby Swanson in the second inning. Then he allowed a solo home run to Ian Happ, who is now up to 3 home runs through the first 2 games of this series against the Phillies. But he hit a solo home run in the third inning. And then for the third consecutive inning, Mick Abel allowed a solo home run, but this time to Michael Busch in the fourth inning. So 3 runs off of 3 home runs. Obviously could have been a lot worse if runners were on base. You don't like to give up that many home runs in one game, especially in just 4 innings that Mick Abel pitched. But luckily, they were all solo shots, so he was able to pitch well enough. Is that the correct? I don't know. But he kept the Phillies in the game while he was pitching still. He ended that game going 4 innings with 6 hits, those 3 earned runs. He also had 3 walks, which is a bit high, especially in 4 innings. And he had just 3 strikeouts, but only in 4 innings. So, not his best stuff, obviously. Not his best command, letting up those home runs, letting up those 3 walks. He did get out of a huge situation in the top of the 4th inning before he was replaced after that 4th inning. He had bases loaded. One of the game's best hitters, and Kyle Tucker, was up to the plate, and he ended up getting him out with a strikeout against Kyle Tucker with bases loaded to limit the damage and to only get out of that inning, get out of the game with 3 runs allowed to the Chicago Cubs. So credit to him there. Obviously, the Phillies ended up losing that game 8-4, so it really didn't matter at the end. But Mick Abel still pitched good enough, especially going back to his previous 2 starts, to be able to stay in this Phillies rotation while Aaron Nola continues to rehab and recover and get his way back into the Phillies starting rotation. Mick Abel will have plenty more opportunities to prove himself. Hopefully he can bounce back from this rough outing against the Cubs in his next start and get back on track to what he did in his first 2 starts of his Major League career, preferably his first start where he went 6 scoreless, obviously, with 9 strikeouts, but who knows, we'll see. Now, going off of the Mick Abel performance, obviously, you want more than 4 innings out of your starting pitcher. It just makes your bullpen, put your bullpen into a very tough situation when a starter can't go deep into a game. Mick Abel was only able to go those 4 innings. So the Phillies bullpen, which is already a weakness for them in 2025 this year, already struggling, already very inconsistent. They were forced to work extra, pitch more innings than usual. Just a really tough situation, like I said. Credit to Tanner Banks. He went 1 inning in that 5th inning in relief of Mick Abel. He allowed just 1 hit. And then Taijuan Walker came in for the 6th inning in a situation that Rob Thompson wants to be able to use Taijuan Walker in, like middle to late, high leverage, close game situations. At the time, the Phillies were winning 4-3 at the time. Taijuan Walker, he pitched that 1 inning in the 6th. He allowed 2 hits and 2 earned runs. Those 2 earned runs came off of a 2-run home run in that 6th inning to give the Cubs a 5-4 lead. And ultimately, that's all they needed to win that game against the Phillies. They ended up winning 8-4, but that 2-run home run put them on top and gave them the runs that they needed to be able to beat the Phillies and come away to tie the series 1-1 at the end of the night. Taijuan Walker obviously has a lot of struggles, some bad history with the Phillies throughout his career. He's had a lot better of a season so far in 2025, but you don't like to see that. Obviously, you're not going to be perfect every game, not perfect every appearance, but there's been too many down moments with Taijuan Walker, so Phillies fans really are going to let them hear it and are really going to dwell on the fact that Taijuan Walker pretty much allowed the game-winning home run there in the 6th inning. Joe Ross, he came in for the 7th inning, got through it, and then he went back out there for the 8th inning, could only get 1 out in the 8th inning. So he went 1 1/3 innings, allowed 2 hits. He had 2 walks, which you don't like to see, and 3 earned runs. Now, granted, Carlos Hernandez came in relief for Joe Ross in that 8th inning, get the last 2 outs, went back out there for the 9th. So he went 1 2/3 innings, allowed just 2 hits, no runs, but he did allow 2 runs to score in that 8th inning in relief of Joe Ross. So they weren't charged to Carlos Hernandez, but those 2 runs were charged to Joe Ross. That's why Joe Ross finished with 3 earned runs instead of 1. Carlos Hernandez finished with 0 earned runs instead of 2, because they were Joe Ross's base runners that Carlos Hernandez allowed in that 8th inning. Just tough stuff for the Phillies. Obviously, it got away from them in the 8th inning, where the Cubs put on 3 extra insurance runs to take that 8-4 lead. The Phillies couldn't get anything going in their half of the 8th inning. Obviously couldn't score in the 9th to rally late. Ended up losing that game 8-4, unfortunately. Hopefully help is on the way for the Philadelphia Phillies. Obviously the July 31st trade deadline is rapidly approaching as we get towards the middle point of June. One name to watch could be Emilio Pagan from the Cincinnati Reds. Now the Reds are hovering around 500 mark. They're in the playoff hunt. They're a few games out of the NL wildcard spot, a few games even back of the Cubs in the NL Central. So not necessarily sellers right now, but as the next month or so progresses, as we get closer to the trade deadline, if the Reds start to fall out of playoff contention, they could be sellers. Right now they're 35-33, so they're just 2 games over 500. They could sell, like I said, towards the deadline to teams like the Phillies, who were trying to make a playoff push, a championship push, trying to find some missing pieces to help them put them over the edge, fix some weaknesses to solidify themselves as they get closer to the playoffs. Emilio Pagan, he's a 34-year-old right-handed pitcher. He's got a 3.54 ERA with 35 strikeouts in 28 2/3 innings so far in 2025. He is the Reds' closer this year. He has 16 saves and 18 opportunities, so obviously a late inning, high leverage reliever that the Phillies could definitely benefit from having in the back end of their bullpen. Opponents are hitting a career low 155 against Pagan, so good stuff out of him. Throughout his 9-year career, he's had just 2 seasons with a sub-3 ERA. Once came in 2019 with the Tampa Bay Rays, and more recently in 2023 with the Minnesota Twins. So not really the best track record in his 9-year career. He's been good enough. So far in 2025, he's having a very good season as the Reds closer. He'll be a free agent after this season in 2025, so going into 2026. So essentially, it will most likely be a 1-year rental if the Reds were to trade him, if the Phillies were to trade for Emilio Pagan. That definitely makes his trade value lower than, say, somebody that has club control, somebody that isn't 34 years old. So he could be a realistic option, like I said, if the Reds start to fall out of playoff contention and if the Phillies don't lose too many games, don't fall out of playoff contention themselves as we near this July 31st trade deadline. Just a name to watch. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Hennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully the Phillies get back on track to win this series against the Cubs. So, well, as always, go Phils.